I don't know what country it was. I think it was actually Japan.
Japan.
It was Japan. They're compensated just as much as
Yeah.
doctors, and often regarded as more prestigious occupations.
Because
Yeah.
they recognize there that teachers are shaping their kids' minds, leading them towards success.
In Canada, they pay them like what's equivalent to like $80,000 here.
Yeah.
And they have to go to school a little longer than they do in the United States. But apparently, a lot of people over there want to be teachers because you actually make a lot of money for it. So.
Oh, yeah. You can't be in it for the money because there's no money.
It's a deeper journey than that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But even here, you still have to go to school for quite a long. I don't. What is it like in Canada? Would it be like equivalent to like a master's degree? That's
I
6 years?
imagine at least, yeah.
Okay.
6 to 8. I don't really know for sure, but I imagine it's somewhere in between the two of those.
So yeah, like here, if you were to go 6 years, you would be a lot better off at finding a job. But even with like 4 years, it's just a very highly competitive field, and not necessarily enough compensation in no way.
I definitely agree. It's one of those things where, education is important, and unfortunately, I think that a lot of the solutions that I've heard suggested on how to improve our education system will be as simple as like either pay teachers more or switch this one rule. Like people either say like, oh, we need something more like Common Core to develop it more, or some people say we got to get rid of that and go a different direction. But I think like a lot of it has to do with things need to change on a lot of different levels. Paying the teachers more would help, but if you did that on its own, I don't think it would solve it. I think there's a little bit of a culture in how we look at education and the role education plays in America.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is how we get our kids excited about teaching. And I also don't think there's a lot of things that I learned in college, and some of it on my own, about like critical thinking and philosophy and all sorts of things that I really don't understand why they don't teach in high school.
Yeah, it's true.
So.
And yeah, back to that one point about the culture, and how last episode we talked about a little bit of a generational divide that we have in this country.
Yeah.
Like how boomers, for example, viewed education. It was most likely 18 and done.
You could get away with that.
Yeah, you could get away with that then. And nowadays it's
very hard to do that.
Yeah, very hard to get a stable job with just not some sort of higher education. And whether it be associate's degree or something else.
Not only that, I feel like the gateway for higher education, like, okay, so anybody can get like a loan and like get in college that way, but let's just say it doesn't work out. You just have this mountain because of debt and stuff like that, and you just have a hard thing to pay off. Because like before, you could go to college and pay it off in a relatively short period of time back in like the 70s and the 80s.
Yeah.
And now you just can't do that. So even before, like, yeah, you owed the college a lot of money if you went and you decided it wasn't for you, but at least you could get out of it. Now it's like kind of impossible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to really get out of it is if you actually complete the degree and you get your job. And I know that's like the goal and people should be encouraged to do that, but it doesn't. There's still a lot of high school dropouts. And when you encourage as many people, because more people are going to college now than ever. And when you do that, you're going to have more dropouts because you're encouraging people who don't really know any better and they're probably not cut out for that sort of thing. Because not everybody is.
No.
But.
No. Yeah. Exactly. And another thing too is like we see sort of this like hierarchy of socioeconomic education in that rural areas often have more average to lower than average education systems based on just funding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But also you see this problem with inner cities. Big urban cities with large population. You shouldn't think that funding would be a problem, but yet they do face this every day, and you have teachers that have to buy supplies off their own dime.
In all schools, that's not just...
Yeah, I know, but like,
schools.
even we can make the assumption that
they have larger class sizes, and that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that's really the main factor that's like, because you're like, why are inner city schools like this when they're in areas that have like more money? It's because there's a larger class size.
But we also they also account for that by creating more schools.
I mean, yeah,
because
but
like Minneapolis, for example, has like what, 4 high schools?
No doubt, but I guarantee if you look at the class size of each of those high schools, they're still big schools. Minneapolis is a big place. 4 high schools is like not really enough even.
True.
No,
that's true. Yeah, and it's only gonna get bigger.
And you could maybe have 4 high schools if they were big schools with a large array of teachers, but I imagine they're probably understaffed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not just the number of schools or number of teachers, because like schools generally get funding based on the amount of students they have.
Yeah.
So it would make sense rural schools get less money than schools in the cities,
but why? Okay, so student-teacher ratio 12-1, which is lower than the average.
Mm-hmm.
This is based on 2014, so it could be a lot different now. But
yeah, I wonder how the trends would change, whether there'd be more teachers now or less.
Yeah, but why do they still struggle with funding? Because you say, yeah, funding's based on class sizes.
Is any of it based on standardized test scores?
It is, yes. That's the other thing it's
Probably
based
a big
on.
part
So,
of it.
Kids whose parents have money and they can retake tests over and over again and get tutors for these kinds of standardized tests, and whose teachers have time to teach them how to take the test instead of just trying to catch them up, they do better.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, that was 98. We'll find some more.
I mean, since IQ is like a fluid thing as you grow up, if you're better equipped with, like, if you come from a wealthy family versus a poor family, you're better off to be able to like cultivate your IQ as you grow up and as it crystallizes. Because people act like, yeah, you can't really change and improve your IQ once you're an adult for the most part. But when you're growing up, it really is a flexible thing. And I mean, I think that might be a big part of it in like the inner cities and these poor communities. A lot of these kids aren't able to live up to their full potential because they weren't raised in the best possible conditions.
Right,
So.
they weren't even given the option.